Welcome back to the Automation Podcast, the world's number one industrial automation product and technology show. Thanks to you, our audience of highly skilled automation professionals. Thank you for being a member of our audience and thank you for tuning back in this week. Now, for those who are new to the show, my name is Shawn of Insights in Automation, and each week I invite a new vendor to come on the show to tell us about their products and technologies. And during their presentations, I play the role of the audience asking questions I think you might have and questions I have as well. Now, given that over a quarter of our audience listens, not watches, but listens to the show, I'll also try to call attention to any of the details and the visuals that I think you guys might want to know about. So, with that said, we have a very special episode this week. We're meeting back up with ISA and we're going to talk to Scott Reynolds, who's just back from the UK and the OT Cybersecurity Summit. But before we get into that, and you guys know how important I think OT cybersecurity is, but before we jump into that, I would like to ask Scott. First, Scott, welcome to the show. And then second, could you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, Shawn. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate coming on here and being able to talk to your community. Like you said, I'm Scott Reynolds. My day job is that I'm the senior security and network engineering manager for a company called Johns Manville, who's a Berkshire Hathaway company. And kind of my background is starting out in consulting for water, wastewater, and industrial systems. And I've kind of moved over into the OT cybersecurity space, which is what we're here to talk about. And right now I am I was the co-chair for the OT Cybersecurity Summit, and I'm also the president-elect secretary for ISA, which makes me the society president for 2025. And then degree-wise, if anyone cares, to check my credentials, I have a degree in electrical engineering technology, and I have an MBA if anyone wants to hear me talk about dumb financial stuff all the time.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I wish I could have went to London with you. It looked like it would have been a good time over there. But in any case, since most of us did not, tell us about this summit. First of all, before you actually, is this something you guys do every year? Was this something new for this year? Tell us a little bit about the event itself. But before we jump in, I want to thank theautomationschool.com for sponsoring this episode of the show. That's where you'll find all of my online courses on Allen Bradley and Siemens PLCs and HMIs. So if you know anybody who needs to get up to speed on those products, please mention theautomationschool.com to them. And now let's jump back into the show.
Yeah, so this is the second year that we've done this. The first one we did in Scotland, and this year we're in London. And I'm going to just jump ahead a couple slides because it has the details in it, and then we can go back and forth. So this year we had about 260 attendees, which doubled in size from last year. And then with that, we did some training and a workshop and did some special activities such as an escape room and things like that. And we're continuing to do this in Europe next year. We'll be in Brussels next year. So we're keeping it in Europe, and we're trying to continue to grow the community in that area and really focus on that OT cybersecurity.
Yeah. Now, when you're talking about training, we're not talking about hands-on, are we? Are we talking more about a lecture type of training?
So the training that we had was IC32 training, which does have some, I believe it does have some lab equipment, so it is hands-on.
Oh, all right.
To help you get started. All the cybersecurity training, if you do either in person or virtually with ISA, does have a hands-on component. It does have labs to get you at least familiar and comfortable with the concepts that you're learning and how to actually apply them. I think that's really important for any training, is that you actually have to have some hands-on concepts. So that's that part. But the conference itself is obviously more of a panel discussions, presentations, lessons learned, and things like that. With the exception of we had one special thing where we had an escape room and so a cybersecurity escape room, which let's see, I'm going to keep jumping around slides, so I apologize for doing that. But really what it was is a combination of leveraging a digital twin and then kind of taking a tabletop exercise and applying it and creating a VR simulation of a cybersecurity event. And then based on how you interact with it and how you respond to it, the lights change, the more things get infected around you in the control room and things like that. It was a really cool experience.
That's very cool. For the audio audience, they're wearing Quest 3s for the VR portion of it. Everybody knows I'm an early adopter of VR. But in any case, so that's cool. So because I'm just so curious, I kind of had you skip ahead. Can we go back to the beginning and talk just a brief overview of the ISA for maybe, and we've had the ISA on 4 or 5 times now, but just for those people who maybe this is their first episode of the podcast they're catching, let me turn it over to you, Scott.
Yeah, of course. So ISA is the leading professional society for automation. We have over 15,000 members in 104 countries. And as you can see, about 20% of our membership's in Europe. And that's where we obviously hosted the conference. We have kind of 3 things that help us talk about. This is not really about ISA, but this is about the event. But it really dictates what ISA is. And I'll go back to this slide. It's on the bottom here. We're really focused on standards, and from the standards, we then create our training, all our content, our products and system certifications, our personnel certifications. But to me personally, as an end user, I think ISA as a community of professionals that get together and talk and interact and try to create, our mission is to create a better world through automation. And I think we do that through community and engagement and talking to each other.
Yeah, and we saw with the cybersecurity standards that you guys worked with the IEC on, that I think was on the next slide. When we had your folks on to talk about that, you could see how much work the community at the ISA put into thinking through how we're going to do this. And it's not just simple. They used all the resources they could around the world, including existing resources in the IT world, to try to craft something specifically for automation. And so it was just very impressive. But in any case, let me go ahead and turn it back to you. But before we get into that, I wanted to thank those of you who signed up in our new membership program, either on YouTube or at theautomationblog.com. In appreciation of your support, you get exclusive access to the videos of episodes that are not sponsored by the vendor. Now, to learn more about our membership program, which is only $10 a month, please visit theautomationblog.com/memberships. And with that, let's go ahead and jump back into this week's episode.
Yeah, and really the 62443, which is the series of standards around cybersecurity for the OT environment, is a community-driven standard. So it's a consensus-based, and what that does is it pulled out it hopefully pulled out kind of the drive to get your specific viewpoints leveraged more than others, and instead of getting a vendor to start driving a standard, you get a community to drive it. That consensus-based community standards thing is really key to the success of the standard itself and to all of ISA's standards. We also train professionals and kind of what. And we have a lot of experience with that. And kind of like this slide says, I'll read it out loud for the audio listeners, but we do training and certificate programs based on the standards. And it's specifically designed for OT cybersecurity professionals. But if you are someone coming in from the IT side, you can also gain a lot of information from these training as well, and the training programs kind of drive which way you're going based on, or where you have to focus your efforts based on where you're coming from. But we kind of meet you where you're at, whether you're coming from the OT world or you're coming from the IT world trying to get into the OT space. And then we do this conformity assessment. ISA Secure does that, which is really telling you, do these components or do these systems um, allow you to get into compliance with the standards of the safety level that you're trying to achieve with your specific areas of your of your network.
Yeah, and for anybody who's listening, if this is your first time, we did have Eric Cosman on, I think it was 6 months ago, to do a deep dive on 62443. Very interesting, a little technical, a great listen if you're driving to or from work or somewhere else, or doing your yard work or something. Just to, to where you want to kind of soak that stuff into your brain. But and we try to cover on the Daily News Show. I always try to cover whenever a new vendor gets that certification or whenever somebody's talking about cybersecurity, I always try to cover it because, as we were saying in the pre-show, it's my personal belief it's one of the most important topics we need to cover. I mean, it's to me more important than AI, even though AI is important. Digital twins are really important too, and we're actually going to be meeting later this week. I'll be meeting with one of the former ISA presidents to talk about those two topics. So those are future shows we'll be having. But you guys can grab that now. Scott, I want to go back to talking about what you're here to talk about, and really, what do you guys like? What's new in OT cybersecurity? What do you guys talk about at the event? And just really anything you want to share with us today.
Yeah, I think the biggest trend coming out. So the thing I joked about at the conference while I was doing our panel discussion was that it used to be that we talked about if you said Stuxnet, then you would take a shot. Mm-hmm. But now the new drinking game is if you say AI during cybersecurity, then you take a shot. So the thing I will say is that really understanding since artificial intelligence, as you know, kind of has exploded, what does that mean, if anything, on the OT cybersecurity space, and at every angle. So with the people attacking us, how are they leveraging AI to develop new code without even knowing what a Modicon PLC is, for example? How are they able to automatically figure out how to program that, leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning, or any other PLC system out there? And then from the defender side, how can I leverage artificial intelligence to kind of weed out the data and tell me what's really important, or tell me that something's happening that isn't intuitive to me with all the data coming in. So kind of looking at artificial intelligence in all the different aspects, and kind of from a threat standpoint, like I said, and then from a defensive posture, is one area. The other area is something that I don't know if is new, but it's been the ongoing trend, which is industrial Internet of Things. Mm-hmm. Should just jump to the slide for the two topics, but with Internet of Things, and kind of people wanting to take instruments and get that to the cloud and do some processing and do some intelligence and getting data from that, how do you do that securely? And as we start focusing on all those different things that are going cloud-based or service-based, how do you truly figure out what that looks like architecturally to be successful in a secure way, but you still want to benefit from all these new and exciting, innovative technologies at the same time?
Yeah, there's a lot to go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please.
No, and there's a lot, and for those of you who are listening who don't watch the morning show, we kind of unpack this on there, and there's been some great articles that vendors have put out over there, and some of them we get right from automation.com, the ISA's website. But we've really been unpacking this, and just think of these algorithms that we use in our vision systems, in our ID cameras, and how you can self-teach them so much faster now to do your inspections, right? And that same type of algorithm is being used by hackers now to, instead of looking for maybe the latest 10 vulnerabilities, they're looking for hundreds of thousands of vulnerabilities in every attack on your system. You know, so there could be, old vulnerabilities, new vulnerabilities, but these algorithms are now so far advanced that they can utilize them to really attack you far greater than anything they could do before. And they're getting smarter and smarter. And on the flip side, we can use AI kind of like we use predictive maintenance or condition monitoring, right? So if something different starts happening on our network, right? Think of that, right? So you have this cybersecurity, OT cybersecurity software, which I know a lot of vendors are developing and selling. And it doesn't look for, hey, he's going to the wrong port or he's trying to access something he's not. It's now saying, hey, this is different. Like your predictive maintenance and condition monitoring, like we're so familiar with, right? It's saying, hey, this traffic is unusual. Alert, 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 right? So, on both sides of it, it's really important. Then we talk about IoT. I mean, so many people get excited about the IoT, and then like who's documenting what's being added to the network? Who's checking to make sure that's secure? Did we implement zero trust to make sure this new widget that maybe the production manager installed without telling engineering or the automation folks? Did anybody check to see if it was, did he open up the entire pipe to that IP address? So just so many things to think about with the excitement of connecting everything up. I hear you know, did anybody ask, should we connect that up? Should we make that, accessible to the outside world? What kind of security we have? And I love reminding people on the show, it's like the biggest companies in the world are hacked every day. And these are the biggest companies in the world. They have the biggest IT organizations and the best security, and they still get hacked all the time. So we can't assume that we're safe and that we're not going to get attacked. We need to take our defense seriously and, zero trust, zones and conduits, all things we've talked about on previous episodes. But in any case, let me turn it back to you, Scott. Hey everyone, I just wanted to jump in here and pay some bills. Thank you, first of all, for listening to this episode. And while today's vendor wasn't able to sponsor this episode, I still wanted to invest the time to bring it to you because I think you're like me. You like to learn about new products and technologies. So, with all that said, I'd like to ask you to consider becoming a member for just $10 a month, either on YouTube or at theautomationblog.com, to help me offset the cost of producing these episodes each week. In exchange for your membership, you will receive member-only perks, including access to my daily news show and ad-free editions of every unsponsored episode of this show. With that said, thanks again for tuning in this week, and now we'll return you to this week's episode.
Yeah, and the other thing that kind of makes me think of is when you talk about the machine learning and the tools they're using. Another change. I'm going to pivot a little bit, but the other change that's happening right now is that the new threat actors are focusing on kind of living on the land, using the tools that are already in your environment and living with those tools, so that they're even harder to detect, because it's not just normally in cybersecurity, you look for a signature that says that this is how you know that you've been hacked by this specific process, because this signature either shows up on the network or on your device. But if they're going to say that, oh, I see that you have this version of this thing that's doing this thing, and I know that if I do it this way and I found these credentials over here, nothing in that is something that you can just get a signature and say, here's how we do it. So it as the tools to detect this stuff get more sophisticated, and to be honest, as the OT cybersecurity defenders get more intelligent and more mature in our ability to respond, the bad guys are also getting more clever and finding new ways to hide in our networks.
Yeah, and I like to call it lurking. They may have no reason to hack you today, right? But maybe your CEO says something that's not politically correct. So there's a real concern that you may already have been breached and that they're lurking there. There's no reason to attack you right now. Maybe you make a product they like, but they're lurking, and this is a real concern. I don't know. I don't know what the penetration is. I don't think anybody really does, but it's been a big concern based on some of the deconstruction of certain attacks. Hey, they got in 2 years ago and they didn't do anything until now. So you're going to be very cognizant of that, and that's where learning more about OT cybersecurity and zero trust, which is my favorite word, um,
Mhm.
that is where you guys, the listeners, have to think about these things. And let me just say this. Please make sure you have current backups of all your programs, including PLCs, HMIs, VFDs, all of it. Please. That's it's such a sad thing to see people go out of business when they lose, or $1 million machines not be able to be used because the program is gone.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, back to you, Scott.
Yeah, and going back to backups generally, if you look at the so I'm in manufacturing. So my biggest threat in manufacturing is ransomware on our OT environments or our
Absolutely.
OT systems.
Yeah.
And not having backups that can't be destroyed in the process of a ransomware attack um, it is crucial because, as you said, it's not if, it's when, and it's a very stressful
Yeah.
thing to think about. But being prepared for that, and at the same time, have backups for when your system just decides to fail. Um,
Yeah. Oh,
uh,
yeah.
yeah,
We covered a couple of ransomware attacks. Both of them cost the companies millions of dollars.
yeah,
And they were just horrible. I don't, in both cases we covered, they didn't pay. They
yeah.
didn't, they refused to pay. That's, I think, to me, that's the American spirit. Yes. But or the human spirit, right? So they didn't pay, and it cost them a week of production or several days of everybody working all weekend long to restore the system. But millions of dollars worth of lost revenue. And so yeah, backups. And it's not just your hardware, your PCs, your development licenses, and please, but don't put everything in one cloud system. You should also have a physical copy somewhere outside of your facility. Cloud systems can get hacked too. A lot of times, well, in one instance, the company was saved by the cloud because the hackers never got into their cloud. So they had everything up in the cloud and they were safe. But that's not in every case, that's not the case. Sometimes they can lock up your cloud account too. So keep that physical backup somewhere safe as well, just like we've done since the dawn of computers. But I'll turn it back to you, Scott. What else do you have in your presentation? Anything else that you want to talk about the from the conference?
Yeah, so I guess a couple other things. The first one is that we had a really good workshop on kind of understanding standards and how to apply them. So um, when you the world of standards is something I know enough to be dangerous about, and I've been talking to people about standards for a long time, and trying to understand how ISA and IEC work together, and what that relationship actually looks like. Understanding how standards are developed and the difference between a standard and a technical report and things like that. Um, Really having those uh, deep dives into understanding how these things are created is really helpful, because what a lot of people are doing now, which I think is great from my perspective, is that they're taking compliance to laws um, around cybersecurity or compliance to your insurance company if you have cybersecurity insurance or physical insurance, and basically taking ISA 62443 and using that as the baseline across the board for saying we conform to this standard, we conform to this standard, or this policy and this policy, or these regulations. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm completely biased because I moderated the panel, but I thought it was a fascinating discussion on kind of where that comes from and how you can use them and how you can apply it.
Yeah, that's excellent. It was a very interesting venue too. Where did you guys hold this? Hey guys, Shawn jumping back in here to let you know about one of the new services I'm offering from my new downtown office. In addition to custom in person training and virtual training, I'm also now offering one on one mentoring. This is a service that grew out of my online courses at theautomationschool.com, driven by students who completed my courses, were competent in their jobs, but then they would run into difficult or confusing applications, and they wanted to hire me to sit with them virtually and review their projects, review their code, and ask questions. And I got to tell you, it's gone really well with the students I've done this with, and so now I'm releasing it to the public. If you want to know more, please use the contact link at either theautomationschool.com or theautomationblog.com. Now, another service I'm offering is the result of vendors and users coming to me and saying, Shawn, you got all that equipment in your studio. Could you test this for me? Or could you set up my computer and make sure it communicates to all those devices? And so I'm also offering PC configuration and application testing right here in my downtown office. So if you're interested in that, you can use the same two contact links to get in touch with me. And with that, that's all I have right now. Let's return to this week's episode of the Automation Podcast.
Yes. So it was at the Savoy Place, which is, I'm going to get this all wrong, but it's a club of engineers, and there's like Faraday and crazy smart people all are
all right.
members of this community. And then people come in and out. Steve Mustard, one of our past presidents, he's sitting on the panel here in this picture, is a member, and it's a beautiful place, and it's and people just come in and have meetings there who are members of this group, and it was fascinating to be invited to this place and participate in anything here. It was a wonderful place. We had the exhibit hall and our meals in the library, and you can see all these books everywhere that are behind walls and stuff like that. And then if you want to get to look at where their library of older books are that got created, I was told there were books in the basement that you can that you can't touch, but you can look at the original equations and where they got written for the first time.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this picture right here where you have the two floors of books, and it just looks like a just an interesting place. It truly does.
Yeah, and it's just three walls of books. So it was a beautiful venue. It was an awesome place to be, and it was really right in the heart of London too. So
oh wow,
it was extremely nice to fly into a direct flight to a conference in Europe. So that was that was really great. And then I stayed after for a couple of days and toured London.
Yeah.
So I had a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. I took my first trip to Europe last year with the wife for our anniversary. We went to Ireland, and it was just so much, except for the history. It was just so much fun, and just a nice chain of scenery, and just to get to see what they were doing over there and how they do things differently, and the history is a little sad, but just everything that goes with visiting Europe it's so much fun. Was there another slide you wanted to talk about after the one we just looked at?
Yeah. So I guess I'll just mention we had two keynote speakers. Sarah, who's very well known for her work in the 62443 standard, and then Simon, who is a former BP CISO, and talking about the impact of OT cybersecurity from the perspective of being a CISO, and talking about the incident that BP had, and how you can have 20 safety systems or systems in place to protect you, and 20 fail safes, and they can all fail. So those are both very fascinating conversations that I thought was excellent. And then the other thing I wanted to mention that we had is that we had a workshop on what's called ICS for ICS. I don't know if anyone's talked about it on here, but it's the incident command system for industrial control systems. So what they've done is we've taken the FEMA framework for an incident response for a major disaster, and it's been remodeled and adjusted so that it will work around an industrial control system's major compromise. So if there is a major incident that happened, we'll have the framework in place to help roll out a very large program to respond to a major incident that happens. So basically taking the knowledge that FEMA has from responding to huge disasters and applying it to control systems and adjusting the roles and going through that. This workshop is kind of the people in the front are all different roles of the incident commander, the communication chief, things like that, and talking through an incident and what each person's doing and what their role is and how they're contributing and having the different meetings with the different groups. So it's a fascinating initiative that I'm excited about because it's really training people up to be ready for if something does happen and knowing who the people are you can reach out to help create this group to respond to a major incident.
Yeah, I would think every major facility would want to have people who come up to speed on this.
Yeah.
Because there are best practices, like you said. I mean, there's things you want to do right away when you realize you've been compromised, and and you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel, right? So smart people like the people on this panel have already thought through all of this, right? And they've lived it, and they've brainstormed it, and they've collaborated on it. And so this would be great. So is there, if somebody wanted to learn more about ICS for ICS, where would they go?
Oh man, you're going to put me on the spot. So you can go to isa.org and find it, but I think there's a website too that's there that I should know, but I don't know off the top of my head.
No, that's no problem. isa.org, you will find it. Trust me. It's they make it very easy to find all the different things they're working on. With that though, did you have anything else in the presentation you wanted to cover?
Yeah, I guess the last couple of things is that we do have events coming up that I do want to mention, and we always have a cybersecurity track at the ISA Automation Summit and Expo, which this year is going to be in Charleston. We also do tracks on professional development and then IIoT and smart manufacturing. So I love this event because it brings it pulls people in from all aspects of automation, and then you accidentally end up somewhere where you didn't expect to be in a talk and learn something you weren't expecting to learn. So that's happening in September this year. And then, as I said before, the OT Cybersecurity Summit is happening in Brussels next year in June. And then the Automation Expo, Summit and Expo will be in Disney World or Disney Coronado Springs in Orlando in October in 2025. So look forward to that. So if this does sound like something you'd be interested in showing up to or learning more about, we do have events going on that I'm extremely excited about and proud of the work that we've done to grow and, again, create that community, which is my passion, and work with everyone else and talk. I guess I will say, kind of as a note, that when it comes to these speakers and these events, the people who speak at these are not full of themselves. Everyone's willing to talk openly and have conversations, and it's not people don't come off as entitled or speaking down to people or anything like that. I really love that it really is a community, and everyone's trying to make everyone better, and everyone's very humble in that process. And because of this community that we built up, and we hope to continue to grow and continue to engage in people with that dialogue, that we will continue to find ways to find new people to be successful in these areas. There's no one here trying to steamroll over anyone else or anything like that. We're all trying to work together to accomplish the same thing, which is protect our OT assets.
Yeah, and it's not a organization for C-level personnel. This is an organization for professional automation people who are, if you work with automation as your profession, right? Whether you're an electrical engineer, controls engineer, automation engineer, high-end technician, automation technician, or electrician. I know some of the best automation people started as electricians, and now they're top of their game, top of their industry in automation. I mean, that's what this is about. It's not about, how many degrees you have, or if you're C-level. Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a community of practice, right? So it's people who are actually doing the work and want to make a difference. We talk about how to talk to C-level people, so it means that we're talking to you about how to do that. And you're right. It's people who are electricians, technicians, engineers, managers, senior managers. If you are a C-level person who wants to learn more about the practice and how to be successful and how to engage with your automation members, this would be a great place too. But it really is for the people doing the work.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I want to throw out there too, if you're listening, the site where you'll find their upcoming events is isa.org/events. And that one event coming up in South Carolina is September 30th through October 3rd. So if you're thinking about that, you want to check that out soon, because we're already in June, right? And soon to be July. So you definitely want to check that out. And if you're in the South Carolina area, especially, that may be something you want to take part in. Now, Scott, I probably should ask before we close out here, if somebody wants to join the ISA, do they just go to isa.org? And is there information there on how to join and become a member of the association?
That's right. You can go to isa.org, and there's a place right at the top that says become a member, and it'll talk you through all the services and resources available. If you happen to be in an area that has a local section, you mentioned Ireland, for example, and they are a section that I'm familiar with, and there's a lot of people in Ireland that do a lot of great stuff. We have several sections throughout the United States that do local events. So if you're not able to make it all the way to not make it to London or Charlotte, you can look at local events that happen with your local sections as well. And if you are an online person, there's all sorts of communities of right now, they're called divisions that have technical talks and roundtable discussions on specific topics that you're looking to have a discussion about. You can join one of those. And then we also have a discussion forum. So if you want to have a technical discussion and you need some help and you want to ask the experts, ISA has a community that's members only, that is a technical discussion that everyone is there to really to help you out. There are so many people in that community that you can ask a question about how to properly size a valve for what you're trying to accomplish, or anything around the cybersecurity or any other standard that we have. Or if you're just looking to reach out to figure out how to get started in something that you're not familiar with, it's a great community. That technical discussion forum is a great way to interact with all our members.
Excellent. Anything else? Did we cover everything we wanted to cover?
I think so. I just want to say that I just want to say thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about this OT Cybersecurity Summit. Cybersecurity in general, like you said, we have a lot of it's a huge community that does a lot of great work, and I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Well, Scott, I appreciate your time to come on the show. Tell us about this event you just had in England. Tell us about, the things you discussed and to talk about cybersecurity with you and get your thoughts and opinions. Also to, kind of just bring us up to speed on what's on with ISA, upcoming events. Tell us a little bit about, ICS for ICS and other things. So thank you again for coming on the show, and we really appreciate your time.
And thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I want to thank Scott for coming on the show and bringing us up to speed on the ISA's recent OT Cybersecurity Summit, as well as what's going on with the ISA and some of their upcoming events. Now, if you did enjoy this episode, please give us a like, a sub, and a share. That is the fuel that keeps this show on the air. And if you'd like to get every video episode of the Automation Morning Show and of the Automation Podcast that is not sponsored by the vendor, then please consider signing up and becoming a member either on YouTube or at theautomationblog.com. Just click on the join button. And I do want to sincerely thank everybody who has already done so. With that, I want to wish you all a great week. I want to wish you happiness and good health. And until next time, my friends, peace.